Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcast. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. Get some weed and now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Hello everybody and welcome into the 110th episode of the Penny Bloom Podcast. 'Tis I, Colton Robertson, and you're back for the Bad Batch, bitches. Wow, what a fucking good one. It's episode 8, titled Reunion, written by Christian Taylor. I'm joined by Kyler Barnett. What's up, homie?
Let's get it.
Let's get it. What's up, Miles Buttress?
Oh, you know, just ready to talk about some Star Wars for
Star Wars.
Yeah, we're coming up on a year at some point soon, aren't we?
Yeah, September, I believe, is when we started the Mandalorian rewatch.
We started it before September, didn't we?
Maybe it was August. I'll have to double check that. But it's either August or September. I'll tell you that much. I know that for sure. But it's the Bad Batch, bitches. Sadly, we couldn't be joined by Joseph George or Tillman McClooney tonight. They both had things. Funnily enough, though, I'm about to talk about the writer of this, Christian Taylor, and we've rode Dave Filoni's dick pretty hard thus far, and arguably Joseph George and Tillman McClooney more than anybody. But I wanted to show some love to the writers of the writers on the show. More so than Dave Filoni, because Dave Filoni has been a supervising director and did create the Clone Wars characters and stuff, so he gets some credit, but he only wrote the pilot. He has not actually wrote an episode since. So I wanted to show some love to Christian Taylor, writer of this episode and the writer of episode 4, where Fennec Shand hunts them down. He was also the writer of the Jedi Youngling arc in the Clone Wars, where they went to Ilum and found their Kyber crystals. He was the writer of the Mortis trilogy, which is regarded as the best arc of the Clone Wars, where Anakin meets the father and the son and the sister. And he also wrote like half of season 6. So he's a well-versed Star Wars writer here. The main writer, though, is Jennifer Corbett. It's really her writing team. She was big on Resistance, and she also wrote some NCIS. She wrote episode 7, 1, and 2. We have Amanda Rose Munoz, who wrote episode 6. She's been a script supervisor for all of Star Wars animation, which is cool. And this is her only writing credit, Bad Batch episode 6, which I thought was fascinating. We got Tamara Becker, who wrote episode 5 and was a part of Daredevil, Doom Patrol, Runaways, and Iron Fist. So well-versed in some Marvel properties, and then one DC with Doom Patrol. And then we got Christian Taylor, who also wrote on the Clone Wars, Lost, Teen Wolf, and Luke Cage. So another interesting fact that we've got, writers from Luke Cage, Daredevil, and Iron Fist all on the Bad Batch writing team. Thought that was interesting. Then we got Matt Micknovitz, who is the main story editor for the Bad Batch, but he also wrote episode 3. He's also responsible for multiple episodes of Star Wars Rebels, and the story for Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh,
then we've also got,
that's an interesting credit. I like that.
Yeah, Matt Micknovitz, Jedi Fallen Order, Rebels, and then he wrote the arc on Umbara for the Clone Wars. That's the dark planet with General Krell, who kind of turns on the clones a little bit. And he wrote the original Bad Batch arc in season 7. And then in episode 2, we got an episode wrote by Gursimran Sandhu, who also wrote for Game of Thrones. So we got a really well-versed writing squad here in the Bad Batch, and I just wanted to give them all shouts because we have not done our due and proper for all the writers on this show. We've mainly rode Dave Filoni pretty hard, and he deserves plenty of credit. But there's credit due elsewhere as well. So I just wanted to show them a little love. You guys ready to jump into episode 8?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I had a couple really big, big points I had that I really want to get out. That I really
Let's
liked.
do it. Let's do it. How'd you feel about the episode, Kyler?
I really liked it. I mean, I feel like that's just par for the course at this point. It's just like it's
Indeed.
automatic. Like I turn it on and I'm just like ready to just enjoy it and like the episode. That's how confident I am at this point in it.
100%.
I love how like every episode, like the action feels really substantial. Like feels like it really matters. Like it's never just vague action. I feel like for the most part, it's actually like pretty important. Like it's plot relative.
True,
which gives
and it actually feels like the characters are in danger.
Yeah, right, and it really, and I think part of that has to do with just, I think the music of this show, that's something that really stuck with me this episode, was the music, was like, man, this
Really
episode,
good.
and it had a lot of different music this episode too, especially with our little pal at the end there, but,
that was a real Western track there at the end with Cad Bane.
Yeah, so I really liked this episode, you know, I thought that there was just enough, like, I just felt like the stakes were pretty high from the get-go, and then you see, like we talked about Cad Bane, you see him at the end, and that just raises it even more. And then you see Hunter. I mean, you're here to watch this episode, so, I mean, you know what happens. But
you know what happens.
Hunter goes through some shit. And
here's the thing.
Big man.
You can't compare this to Mando. Mando hasn't taken a shot to the fucking chest. You know what I'm saying? This man
also,
hasn't nearly fucking died.
Mando has taken shots to the chest, but he's wearing fucking
bounce off him.
Yeah, he's wearing that special armor that keeps him safe from shots to the chest. There was a second there where I thought Hunter was just dead.
Same.
I was like, they're just gonna fucking kill him off like this.
Happy Father's Day weekend.
They're doing this like this.
I thought he was dead, and honestly, I mean that would have added a different level to the show for me.
Honestly, by the in between him fading to black as she gets taken by Cad Bane, and before he wakes up, I had kind of accepted the fact man, he's dead, they did it.
Yeah, I was like, oh.
Yeah, man, this ups the fucking stakes. And then obviously they brought him back, and I was like, all right, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, obviously I'm cool with it. I'm always going to be cool with it. But, it's going to take a second to recover from a fucking blast to the chest.
Yeah.
That's pretty rough. Miles, overall, how'd you feel about the episode?
Liked it. Kind of wanted to, Kyler had mentioned, the Western theme, and especially that last, shootout scene. Really wanted to touch on that. I really like that we've, throughout the season, we've gotten bits and pieces of every single bit of Star Wars action. So we've gotten more of the Clone Wars
Yeah, I was gonna say I agree. I feel like every
solution, move along the story type thing.
Oh, I was going to say even deeper, even on a deeper thread. I feel like the kinds of action you see in each distinct either trilogy or movie or show, you see action that reminds you, you'll think of oh, hey, that takes me all the way back to Empire Strikes Back or something.
Yeah,
and then
that's what I was saying.
It's Mandalorian, it feels like, and then you can see they're taking bits and inspiration, and it's just this smorgasbord of just animated, it feels Clone Wars in essence of the top, where we're at and who it is. But it literally represents every other piece of Star Wars content we've ever received. It's got everything you could want, and that's awesome.
Yeah,
and it just feels so happy, even though bad shit has been happening. It feels so happy. It's just so uplifting to watch. Except for
that's kind of what I was saying though. Is
then it feels kind of shitty, but
we're getting the Clone Wars missions. We're getting the Mandalorian shootouts and Western vibes. We're getting the I mean, it was only a little bit in the first episode, but we got the Jedi action there, and
Well, and that's the thing is that they've stuck, like, we're getting the lingering elements of the prequels. We've gotten the whole droid army in an episode.
We got the droids.
I don't know if you guys noticed anything about the sound design in this episode, but those proton torpedoes and those fucking cannons, we saw those in Revenge of the Sith. Like, if you listen to the proton torpedo when Wrecker throws it at the guy and it hits the ground, it makes the same noise as when those torpedoes fire and the shells hit the ground. And I thought that, like, little details like that are what make this so fucking great.
We're getting the original trilogy, stormtroopers being dog shit at everything they do.
Naturally.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, Cad Bane took out several.
Oh, I didn't even think about Cad Bane. I was mainly just thinking about Crosshair just being like, hey, do this, and then it just immediately everything gets fucked up. And he's the only one doing anything substantial to stop, the bad, Clone
and
Force 99, and it's just them just fucking up.
Maybe they're going to make a point to be like, this is why they needed clone troopers. Like, the reason the stormtroopers suck is because the Empire is cheap.
I mean, honestly, it kind of is.
Oh, it is. And I think I think that's exactly what they're kind of doing. They're kind of being like, you're not going to get as good quality soldiers. And that's the bottom line. Like, we are now canonically saying, like, we could always tell because we looked at them and, like, we saw them miss every shot. But now, like, it feels like they are canonically moving towards a point where they are going to acknowledge the fact that the troopers are just not good.
It's the whole thing of, like, well, as the Empire, we could spend, X amount of money getting a really good professional army that's going to do everything we want exactly how we want it, but it's going to be expensive. Or we can spend the same amount of money and get an army that's 20 times the size and it'll do everything at about 10% of the capacity.
and it works.
And
for
they
them
made
for
the
a
choice. Bit. And had they not made that choice, who knows?
Who knows? Can you imagine? It would have been so much harder to defeat the Empire in the original trilogy.
The Empire wouldn't have gotten defeated probably if they still had clone troopers.
And that's saying something. Like, that's some respect to the fucking clone troopers right there because, like, they're just so much better. They would
honestly, if they had just gone the different way and just said, fuck clones, we're just going to make some droids, they'd still probably be better off than they are with the stormtroopers.
You're probably right. And that, you know what? That probably would have been even cheaper than what they did.
Like, that's what I was thinking is like, let's go with the cheap option. You can get even more. And honestly, I think I'd rather have an army of droids than an army of stormtroopers.
Dude, I don't know. I don't know. Dude, these droids.
Well, the droids were fucking stupid, but at least you had, like, the big droids that could do some shit. Okay. Stormtroopers, all you have is the stupid ones.
Essentially. But, we do see them go to try an avenue with some droids, at least post the fall of the Empire with Moff Gideon. He attempts to.
Yeah, I guess
implement
I'm not gonna lie. You said that, and I was like, "What the fuck are you talking about?" No, they didn't.
Yeah, season 2.
But yeah, you're right.
How about we jump into this episode 8 reunion, written by Christian Taylor? Let's do it. All right. So we open on Kamino, where we see Crosshair making his way to inform the Prime Minister and Admiral Rampart that the Bad Batch is on Braca. So they're going to need a lot of help down there. And the Prime Minister makes a bid for them to be captured alive, saying, they're valuable assets and we could really use them. And Rampart's like, yeah, I don't have any fucking reason for treasonous clones. Get them, just go fucking kill them. And after that, we cut to Wrecker teaching Omega how to disarm some explosives. He then tests her. He sets one to blow and tells her to disarm it, counting down from 10, refusing to help her. And it clicks all the way down, and ultimately Omega can't successfully do it, so they have to take cover. But there's no explosion, and Wrecker assures her he wouldn't test her with live rounds, which I liked. because it feels like a little bit of a callback to the first episode. He's like, I wouldn't do that. I've used live rounds have been used on me before. That's shitty.
Yeah, I don't know though. It's like you can't just like say you didn't have a like. There was at least a 1 in 10 chance in my head that I thought Wrecker really did use a live round. Like there was a
that 1 in 10 chance does not come from Wrecker intentionally using a live round.
No,
it comes from Wrecker accidentally using a live round.
Yeah, I know. I agree.
Where you're just like, Wrecker's kind of an idiot.
You can't count it out. Like,
yeah.
That's a fair point. I feel like if there is anything Wrecker knows, though, it's explosives.
He knows his bombs.
He knows his bombs. He likes blowing stuff up. That's no doubt. But I wanted to talk about this part in particular because Christian Taylor also wrote The Gathering, which is the episode of the Clone Wars in which Ahsoka takes the Jedi younglings to see Yoda on Ilum, and they go and search for their crystals. And in that episode, Yoda tells them they have to make it out, or the wall will freeze, and they'll be stuck. He was lying, like they could always break out if they wanted to, and that felt like a little bit of this vibe for me. Wrecker being like, "I'm testing you. This is gonna blow up." Like it gets the child to train for what's in the moment, not really be counting on the fact that they will make it out of this alive.
That sounds terrible, but yeah, no, I hear you.
They got to train them somehow. They're like Omega's being bred into a fucking war,
It's like when you would then be in basketball practice and you'd be shooting free throws, and then all of a sudden your coach just comes over and starts screaming in your ear or like turns the volume on 1,000,000. He's like, fourth quarter, after he's made you run like 10 suicides. He's like, fourth quarter, down by 2, you got to hit 2 free throws. What are you going to do? You going to crack under pressure? And then
I am.
Yep, you're damn right. You're screaming in my ear from 2 fucking inches away. You think that's
Bro, I'm 12. Of course I'm giving into the pressure.
Like, he's like, he's sitting here 2 inches away from my ear screaming in my ear. You going to crack? Yeah, because considering that would be a lane violation in a game.
I'm going to scream in your ear and make it sound like you're in the NBA right now. Are you going to crack under NBA levels of pressure?
Dude, I'm sorry.
Yeah, because like 4 people watch our games and it's all our parents, dude.
Echo then approaches them. He says they got to get back to the Jedi cruiser, and he inquires how the test went. And Omega says she doesn't want to talk about it, but Wrecker reassures her, she'll get better. He failed his first test too. But we then see them make their way off, and we see some scrappers taking cover, watching them with binoculars. And Echo and Wrecker see it. They see the little flash in the distance from the binoculars reflecting the light in the distance. And Echo notes it. They're like, all right, let's proceed casually for a moment, and let's fuck. So they throw on their helmets, and they make a break for it. They knock out a couple of these guys with the stun feature on their blasters. But the last guy jumps on his little speeder thing and makes his way off. Wrecker's like, don't worry, I've got it. He jumps on it. He hangs on for dear fucking life. It's not going his way. Let's be real. But Echo reports to Hunter that they've been spotted by scrappers, and Omega chimes in that Wrecker says he's on it. And this doesn't give Hunter or Tech a whole lot of faith at all. But we cut back to Wrecker, who is just hanging on for dear life, but is ultimately flung from this thing. And we see Echo, having taken up the high ground, fires on the pilot of the speeder with the stun feature, which causes the ship to crash and this dude to fall off a cliff to certain death. This dude definitely died, like in a real sad way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like in animated movies, I feel like you can do things like that because you can make it seem really cartoony and it's just like way less bleak.
They do that in the Mandalorian too. That's the advantage.
Yeah, but like Mandalorian,
that's the advantage you get from using stormtroopers.
They're expendable as shit. You can abuse the shit out of them because guess what? Go look at a kid. Hey, you go look at a kid's Star Wars toys, right? Guarantee you which ones beat the fuck up the most. It ain't gonna be Obi-Wan Kenobi. It ain't gonna be Darth Vader. That's gonna be the goddamn stormtrooper that the kids left outside, that the kids fucking thrown from 50 feet up in the air onto concrete, That's the motherfucker that gets beat up. It's just like
and any damage to the other toys are coming from beating the fuck up on Stormtrooper.
Exactly. I thought that
also, I feel like this is not the only dude that dies in this episode.
No, absolutely not. It feels like
I feel like
I think there are multiple other scenes that definitely should be dead in this episode. That's what I think.
I do too.
I think it is
every single one of those stormtroopers that gets fucked up by Cad Bane. I'm pretty sure they're all probably dead because he's not using stun on them.
Well, here's the thing for me that's interesting. That Star Wars does on occasion. I'm going to skip to the end real quick. Hunter does survive this blast. That's good. That's good and all. How many stormtroopers have been shot in the fucking chest and died? You know what I'm saying? Like, just because.
Dude,
listen, he didn't get shot in the chest. He got shot in
the shoulder. Good soldiers follow orders.
Good soldiers follow orders.
Those stormtroopers were to sacrifice their lives.
But Omega runs up to check on Wrecker, who is fallen from this speeder, and he's like, "Oh, are you okay, Wrecker? Ricker, are you okay?" And
oh my, that was so aggressively Australian and like manly. Not quite. Like you sounded like fucking going way back. But Kangaroo Jack. You sounded like a character out of that.
Are you okay, Ricker?
Somebody get my man Colton on at Outback. Let's go. Get him in there. He's ready.
Outback.
I'm talking about corporate, though. I'm talking about corporate so you can be in the commercials.
He says he was just waiting to make his move, Wrecker. He's like, yeah, I had that shit. I was just waiting. I was holding on. But we cut to Echo saying that Rex warned them about the scrappers and says that they should leave. And Hunter retorts that, they need money, and they are literally standing on a fucking gold mine. And he asks Tech what the haul would be here, and he says that there's plenty of weapons. Hunter poses the idea that, just a few of them would clear their debt with Sid. And Echo's like, we're soldiers, not arms smugglers. Like, this ain't what I signed up for, bro. And you can tell that Echo, far and away, has the most moral qualms with everything that goes on here.
That's because Echo's a fucking reg.
That's what's ultimately like the case. Like that is why, is because he is a reg.
Well, honestly, it's probably like they probably are so okay with making that transition because like Echo, prior to becoming Echo, whenever he was just like the normal clone, was doing normal clone missions, whereas fucking Clone Force 99 was doing all the fucked up missions, doing, off on their own, fucking shit up. And so, they're probably used to doing weird missions like, hey, go smuggle some fucking weapons for us.
Yeah, they probably don't have much beef with that idea. And Hunter's, he's all about the bread lately, bro. He's like, well, would this pay? Yeah, all right. Sounds good to me. But, Hunter sticks to his guns here. He says, and Tech says that the intel in the ships could be worth far more than any of the weapons. And Hunter's like, good, get this shit online and gather whatever you can. Let's get that shit. Let's get this money, honey. And Omega asks, what they should do about the knocked out scrappers nearby. And Hunter says, well, we need to be gone by the time they wake up, so let's go. And they book it, they run, and they find their way to a real dark armory. And we see this little creature that we saw at the beginning of Jedi Fallen Order. I don't know if you remember, but you see these little rat-like things running around all over the place with Cal Kestis. So it's nice knowing that we're really getting this heavy callbacks to Baraka. But Omega and Wrecker find the gold. Tech turns the power on, and Omega gets a door open for Wrecker, and behind that door, so many proton torpedoes. Wrecker is excited. Wrecker grabs one, holds it close, treats it right the way he would a lover. And Omega's like, can I learn how to disarm that one? And he's like, no, this one's mine. And over the comms, Tech calls out for Omega, and she immediately runs to his aid, all sweet and stuff. And Wrecker gives the torpedo a kiss here, which I was just like, this dude, he loves his explosives. That's really his vibe. But approaching, Hunter says to Echo that with a haul like this, Sid will owe them for a change. And Echo says that if they had left with Rex, they wouldn't have to owe Sid at all. We could have just dipped. Why the fuck did we not do that? And Hunter's like,
dude, I don't know. I feel like hanging out with Rex would be pretty sick, though.
And here's the thing. It is interesting seeing Echo at this point be like, I wish I was with Rex. A little. Not completely, obviously. He loves his Bad Batch family, but I don't know if you remember how the Bad Batch arc ended. He chose to leave Rex and ride with the Bad Batch. Because he was like, these are my people. Now he's thinking like, why the fuck are we not with Rex? We're soldiers. What the fuck are we gonna do? And that's the point Hunter tries to make. He's like, he's on a different path. And Echo was like, well, what the fuck are we gonna do? We're soldiers, Hunter. What other path is there?
It's like, well, why the fuck don't we join him on that path?
And here's the thing: is like, what I know you guys are raising Omega, but like, you're raising her whether you like it or not as a soldier. So why would it be a bad idea to not raise her in some sort of rebellion cell? I don't know. Maybe that's just two rebels.
I get what you're saying. Like it's not like she's going to be raised any differently if you just take her and go raise her fighting for the rebellion. Then you
fighting the Empire instead of conducting arms
raising
deals.
Her as a mercenary.
Yeah, like you're doing shit that you probably shouldn't be in front of a child anyway. Like you might as well fight for the right side in the meantime.
You mean like training her how to disarm a bomb?
Yeah, exactly. But it is what it is. I'm cool with Hunter having his heart in the right place. It's just, come on. But Omega arrives at the bridge at Tech's side and she helps him out. She looks out the window to see Braca. She asks him, what was the war like? And he was like, it's a primary mission objective comprised of various battles on many fronts. She's like, yeah, but what was it like? And he's like, well, I just fucking told you. And they make this point with Tech too. Tech's been one to call out the others' programming quite a bit, but I think this is a really good example of how his operates. He's literal. He cannot. He cannot joke.
You know who he reminds me of?
It's just not a thing he does. But
who Kyler? I
feel he reminds me of Josh Patrick. He reminds me of.
He
Josh
does
Patrick.
remind me of Josh Patrick.
Just that
Josh Patrick in the Patreon exclusive intro.
You gotta get it.
But she then turns to see, this little light flashing on the dash here. Tech informs her it's the proximity sensor. It signals when there's an approaching vessel. And he writes it off as, a short circuit. But immediately screeching overhead, we got some Imperials. And Tech informs Hunter over the comms. He's like, yeah, we got some fucking company. We got a problem. And I got to say, big tragedy vibes from The Mandalorian. Like when Boba Fett arrived or when the Empire later arrived.
Gotcha.
And then, Grogu gets taken at the end of the episode.
I love how every one of these moments is I feel like they've given it plenty of time to breathe. Like they don't let that moment go away too soon. You know what I mean? Like when they're coming in, they really let that ominous feel build and kind of have you sit in it for a minute.
Absolutely.
It's like ooh.
Well, I don't like
and so,
yeah, I don't and like
so that feeling brought on by the sound of the ships flying in. I was just thinking about it. As much as Star Wars is very much lightsabers and the Force, I don't know that there's a noise that is more Star Wars than the sound of the ships flying in or the TIE fighters or just the sound of those ships is very that might be the most iconic Star Wars noise to me.
No, yeah, that. Yeah, that's just that shit rocks. I love it every fucking time. But they make their landfall and Tech's like, yeah, we got some fucking company. We then cut to Nala Se and the Prime Minister, and the Prime Minister tells her, they can no longer delay. that the Empire's mission on Braca poses a threat to their contingency plan. He says they will have to call upon further assistance. So this is the scene we've been waiting for in terms of the confirmation. We had our heavy suspicions. They've been the only ones really in the running.
And I'm so happy because it finally confirms that Joseph is wrong. He's been pushing so hard that it's Palpatine or that they're doing it for Palpatine, and it's just been like, no, it's just them. It's one of their contingencies for whatever reason.
Yeah, they have their own plans, like the Kaminoans are on their own in this. This isn't something that's attached to anything, I don't think.
Yeah.
However, Nala says, like, we've already got Fennec Shand, basically. Like, we've already got someone handling matters. We don't need to do all that. And he retorts that as long as one of the bounty hunters returns the young clone intact, that is all that they should be concerned with. So, we get a little confirmation here. One of the bounty hunters. Does this mean there are two bounty hunters? Or do we got more bounty hunters in play?
Oh, this is like they sent it out to the entire bounty hunters guild, and there's like, put all your fucking best bounty hunters on it, and whoever gets her to us first is raking in that big money.
So we're going. I think the Kaminoans are seeking out specific ones for confidentiality.
Whenever I say like out to the bounty hunter guild, I mean in the sense of like, because I can't imagine that it's like I guess they could reach out directly, but I think there's like a reach out to the bounty hunter guild, and it's like, this can go out to like this many people, and we want top of the line. So it's going to be like a Fennec Shand, a Cad Bane, potentially that we talked about in the Patreon exclusive, a Boba Fett.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see Boba Fett kind of have that standoff with Cad Bane.
It would be so fucking interesting. I don't think we get it, but it would make me so happy.
It would kind of suck to fall back on Boba Fett again, just because we have with the Mandalorian. But
I'd be okay with it.
It would make sense because Boba Fett, in theory, would fight for his sister.
Or maybe, like, we saw Boba Fett in The Mandalorian, like, make the correct choice and help him out and go save Grogu. Maybe, like, we see the opposite, and that's what leads him to do that in The Mandalorian is he goes and fights Cad Bane, defeats
takes
Cad
Omega
Bane,
for himself.
Takes Omega and goes to bring it back to the fucking, and loses her at some point or something like that. And
now
that's where
that I can get behind.
That
would show a change in character.
I love it. Yeah, so I just think it would, as you said, it would show character development and show like how he went from the Boba Fett that we saw in the original trilogy that gets eaten by the Sarlacc, and then how that character change that we see by the time we see him in The Mandalorian. Maybe he spends, however many years sitting in the fucking Sarlacc pit remembering the mistakes he made, and that's where we see the character development from, which would be.
I gotta think that's the event that changes Boba Fett. He's like, I should have died.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's like I should have died, and then maybe spends the entire time thinking on, man, I was a fucking asshole.
Yeah,
maybe I should go right some of the wrongs.
It's a distinct possibility, but back on Braca, Hunter spots Crosshair. And he tells the team, and Tech says that they won't be able to detect them. And he's blocking the scanners. And Hunter's like, yeah, that won't stop him though, and you know that. And they dart again, and down with the Imperials, the elite squad says their scanners aren't picking up anything, just a bunch of atmospheric interference. And Crosshair tells them that they're being jammed, which means they're still on the ship. And he commands some of the soldiers to take a shuttle and find their ship. We cut back to the Bad Batch, with Hunter asking how many soldiers there were, and Tech informs them that there were at least 3 attack shuttles worth. 3 attack shuttles worth. Wrecker chimes in that they've already got what they came for. They should just get the fuck out of here, head for the hangar. And Hunter says that that the Imps are already on the cruiser, so they need to get a covert way out of here. And Echo says that they'll do a forward to aft sweep, so they'll alternate corridors. They make another break for it, and we cut back to Crosshair, who is being informed that their ship has been found, and it is empty. And Crosshair tells his men to create a perimeter around the ship. And I like that, I love Crosshair in this episode. And I feel like He's really, really sank into this role as a leader of soldiers. Obviously, in a very imperial way, he's willing to risk any of them at any point. So he's not an actually good leader. He's just he's a good leader by the Empire standards. You know what I'm saying? And he's ruthless. He certainly is ruthless, and we see more and more of that throughout the episode. But again, back with the Bad Batch, Tech is trying to tap into the Reg's comms so that they can monitor their movements, which is just a very Tech thing to do. And of course, as we learn later, Crosshair knows that. But they hear steps nearby and take cover out of sight, and the imps miss them somehow because they are not very out of sight. They are just around a corner that the stormtroopers happen to not look down. Because if they'd have turned, they weren't hiding. They were just kind of squatting. Like kind of behind stuff.
I don't know. I guess you can't ever just what do you say there? Because stormtroopers are really just that stupid. It's just that simple. You can't argue. You can't ever argue with it. You can't ever argue with it. It's fine.
They are just that dumb, which I think is outstanding.
It's the easiest.
Bless you.
Sorry. It is the easiest writer's coup they have. It's just oh, hey, how are we going to make sure they don't get seen? I don't know. I mean, they don't even really need to try that hard. It's not like stormtroopers.
The stormtroopers are just dumbasses.
No, it's literally like the TikTok with Jack Harlow and Drewski, where it's life like this sure is sweet, huh? That's what this is. Sorry.
But, Tech gets into the comms here, and he hears Crosshair informing all squads to push the targets towards the hangar. And Omega asks, "Aren't we headed for the hangar?" And Hunter tells the group, "Not anymore. We got to cut through the artillery deck." And next we are at the artillery deck. I like that we're just we'll name a place, and then guess what? We're at that place, and they just keep doing it. I love it. But they see there's a pretty far drop down from this artillery deck, and Wrecker groans and explains, "Okay, I'm not going out that way." Which is a nice little line from him, considering he tosses 2 soldiers to their deaths later. But the imps burst onto the deck, and the Bad Batch is trapped on both sides, one by Crosshair. On one side is being controlled by Crosshair, and he said he knew they'd tap into their comms to listen to their whereabouts, and Wrecker peeks out from his hiding space. He's like, "Hey, it's good to see you too, Crosshair. Hey, man. Long time no see. How you doing, buddy? Thanks for coming out." But Tech tells Echo quietly to scomp in and reroute and reserve power to the cannons. Echo tells him that, if the cannons fire, the whole deck collapses, so that's not going to fucking work. And Tech's like, "Actually, it is going to work. That's exactly what I'm counting on, so go ahead." And Crosshair speaks again. "Look at you all, scavenging like rats. How pathetic."
Yeah, I love how he says that's pathetic. Bro.
You are an imp.
Yeah, and also, at the same time, they have, the whole point of the Bad Batch is them being different. So what about you going in, joining in the
conforming
ranks? Yeah, what about that is noble or admirable?
And Omega explains here in a second how it's not his fault, but Hunter asks, "Why'd you come after us?" Crosshair's like, "Yo, you're traitors." And he gives the soldiers, the signal to move into their position, and they surround the Bad Batch. And Hunter makes a bid for the good side of Crosshair. He tells him to wake up, that he's being controlled by an inhibitor chip. And Omega comes forward. She's like, "It's true. The Kaminoans put chips in all the clones." And interesting. I'm going to hold on to it. I'm not giving up. Omega being the one who says they put chips in all the clones. Omega is a clone. And just because she didn't go through Order 66 doesn't necessarily mean she doesn't have an inhibitor chip.
I can get behind it, but there's no way they wouldn't there's no way Rex would not have at least made them do a quick scan.
Well, then here's the thing. Show it to us.
Fair.
I can't be okay with them writing that off as an off-screen event.
Okay, but Rex was literally about to kill every single one of them on the off chance they still had their inhibitor chips. There's no way he'd just be like, all right, well, I almost killed you guys and you got them removed. Like we can forget about her. We can just move on.
Yeah, I'd like to think that's the case too. However, when I'm right, we're going to look back on that and we're going to go, that's a hole. That's a hole in the writing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because if I am right, that's what that is.
Either way, it's either a hole and they should have shown us like her taking part in the scan, or it's a hole and it's like there's no way they would let it slide.
Exactly.
Especially after Wrecker, damn near killed each and every one of them.
Yeah, absolutely. But, she asks him to remember, she asks Crosshair to remember what she told him in the brig, that he's being controlled. It's not his fault. And Crosshair then tells his soldiers, ruthless as fuck, aim for the kid. Yo, you got 3 grown-ass men here. And he goes, aim for the kid.
Well, I mean, is this out of character for like an Imperial character? Look what fucking
not one bit. Not one bit. I'm just saying, like he is ruthless.
In recent Star Wars television, have we not seen this recently?
Not out of character for an Imperial character, and especially not out of character for fucking Crosshair. Yeah, My man was killing civilians for the fun of it. He said, "Do you know where what's his name was at? Who was it they were after?"
Saw Gerrera.
Oh, Saw Gerrera. Where do you know where Saw Gerrera went? And then a civilian said, "No." And he goes, "I believe you," and then just fucking killed him. He is not above killing a child to get at the rest of his team.
And yeah, you're certainly right here. But Hunter pushes her out of the way, and he exclaims that their issue was with him, not with her. And Wrecker tells Echo to hurry up, and Echo counts down from 3 to power up to get the power back on. Crosshair tells Hunter one more time to drop his weapon. And right as he finishes his sentence, the cannon fires and chaos erupts. Blasters are fired and the deck is collapsing. And Omega takes out a few imps with her dope-ass bow. And I'm like, oh, okay. So now she's got a few Imperial bodies on her. So I like that. She's officially killed a few stormtroopers.
She's such a rite of passage.
It's a rite of passage for every Star
Wars
character.
It's always at such a young age. Always at such a young age.
I was watching Rick and Morty the other day, and I actually mentioned this on yesterday's episode for the Rick and Morty season 5 premiere about how, like, there's an episode in season 4 where Rick is like, "Man, this is fucking awesome. I love when there's no consequences. It's like Star Wars." Yeah, like Star Wars because they can just kill the bad guys because they're Imperials.
Yeah.
They're stormtroopers. They all get to die. That's just what they do.
It's the one benefit of having the bad guys that you're killing be masked, people wearing suits and masks that you can't see who it is behind it, and you're just killing. That's just another stormtrooper. Yeah. Who cares?
Yeah, but then you see like Finn, and it's like, oh, huh.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I wonder how many of the million that Luke Skywalker killed was actually not that bad of a person. But yeah, it was just funny. But they take out a few imps here, and the deck officially collapses, and Wrecker seizes the opportunity to throw a couple soldiers out the window that he looked out of earlier, and he picks up the torpedo and the weapons cache and breaks for it with the rest of the gang, and they're cut off by an elite squad member who lets the flamethrower go. It's real Mandalorian season finale of season 1 vibes. And Wrecker thinks, there's one thing he can do. He rears back, he tosses that torpedo, knocks them the fuck out. Direct hit, yeah!
Oh, what was that called? Did any of you guys play Call of Duty? What was it called when you would do that? What did they call that word?
I know what you're talking about. Shit. I couldn't tell you.
Keep going. I'm going to do some research.
Wait, whenever you do what?
When you okay, let's say like you had a grenade launcher on your gun in Call of Duty and you hit somebody just with the grenade.
Oh,
what did they call that? I mean, noob tube was an expression, but that was just the engine.
That was just the act of using. That was what the grenade launcher was. I know exactly what you're talking about, but I'm in the same spot where I just can't think of what it's called.
Yeah, I know.
That's where I'm at. I have zero clue, but I'm going to go ahead and just pick up where I was. They make their way to the Ion engine, where they intend to sneak out the back. And Crosshair awakes amongst the rubble on the artillery deck, and he calls for a status report, where he's informed that there is no sign of the Bad Batch. And Crosshair says to bring him a shuttle. One of his squad members says that they must be heading aft, and he tells them to go to the bridge and await his orders. He hops on a shuttle, and he's on his way. He's on his way. But back in the Ion engine, the gang gets to take a fun little slide here. Wrecker slides down, riding the weapons cache in his possession, which I thought was funny as hell. Very Wrecker of him, the way he like giggles and slides right on. He's like, ha, oh, ha, ha, oh. He slides all the way down. Shit was awesome. But, you know, as they're all sliding, Echo tells Tech that he didn't think he meant literally escaping through the engine. And Tech's like, yeah, I could not have been more clear.
Yeah.
Actually.
He's probably just pissed off at this point. Like, do you guys not fucking listen to me? Like, I tell you.
He's like Chandler Bing in that episode of Friends where he's like, does nobody take me seriously? But, Omega looks up in awe, and she's like, yo, I've never been inside an Ion engine. And Wrecker's like, yeah, that'd be weird as fuck if you had. And Tech's like, this stuff right here is an engineering marvel, yeah. And Wrecker's like, shut up, nerd. And he's like, shut up, nerd, no one cares. And and what's funny, though, is that what he was about to say ends up being important.
Yeah.
He ends up having to say it later.
Yeah, he's like, hey, maybe if you assholes had listened to me earlier, you would know why we can't just blow this thing up.
Exactly. But, you know, they try to make their way to the outside, and they are fired at by Crosshair, which, I don't know. Crosshair's whole thing is that he never misses. He clearly fired a warning shot, which tells me there's a little Crosshair left there. Like a little normal Crosshair left in there. Because there's no way he fires a warning shot in his current state. You know what I'm saying? Like on purpose. And there's no way he misses.
I think there is too. No, and I think there is too because here, and if you want my honest opinion, it didn't occur to me until I realized Hunter wasn't actually dead for real. I would not be surprised if Crosshair would come back. They would go and remove his inhibitor chip. And in replacement of a fellow Bad Batch member down.
That would have made a lot of sense.
The void. But then Hunter didn't die, so I was like, well, I don't know. So I guess it could still happen, but I was really just that came instantly into my mind after Hunter got healed.
Yeah, that would have been pretty seamless. I still do anticipate seeing Crosshair restored with his inhibitor chip removed at some point. However, it would be interesting if after all this they went the route where they did make a point to be like, Wrecker's not waking up. Like what if Crosshair's inhibitor chip was just like, it had too much of an effect on his brain chemistry that he pulled that shit out and he's just like lost. You know what I'm saying?
Like when Buzz Lightyear gets switched over to demo.
Spanish mode.
All right. Oh yeah. Yeah, that too.
No, but yeah, demo mode. I know what you're talking about. But, you know, when they try to make their way outside, Crosshair fires and he shouts, "Try again, Hunter. I told you before. You're surrounded." I'm still trying to rein in my Crosshair. It's not very good yet.
It's hard, man.
He's got a really specific one.
Yeah, I feel like I said, I talked to you guys about how he sounds like Makarov from Call of Duty games, the Modern Warfare series. If you could, and we just need to find a guy that's really good at that impression and get him to come on. And I bet you.
Yeah, we just got to get him on here.
I bet you he could just murder Crosshair impression.
We should just get D. Bradley Baker himself.
Yeah, you know what? While we're at it, I mean, if it's not too much of a hassle, we might as well.
But, Hunter tells them, double back. We need to dip. And right as they do, the engine begins to come online. And he turns to Tech. He's like, yeah, that shouldn't be possible, should it? And Tech's like, actually, I turned the power on because I needed information that you asked for, Hunter. So, yeah, the engine can turn on. And, Omega looks up and she's like, Crosshair wouldn't do that, would he? And it's like, yeah, he would because it's happening. And Tech says, they've got approximately 2 minutes. Wrecker panics. He's like, oh, what about Plan 7? And Echo goes, what the fuck does Plan 7 have to do with anything? And he's like, well, you come up with a better fucking plan, man. I'm sorry. I'm trying, okay? I'm just trying my best. I'm just trying. None of you said anything. I thought Plan 7. But, Hunter then suggests, could we use the explosives from the armory to disable the engine? And Tech's like, aha! My time to shine. Actually, this place was designed to withstand that sort of blast, and it would not be destroyed for that. However, and I like that he didn't just jump to the actual explanation first. He was like, I'm going to make sure to let you know what I was going to tell you earlier. However, if we line this cone with some charges, it would separate the cylinder, destabilizing the core. And
I just think about. I want to know in what world they thought like blowing up the inside of it would do anything. Whenever this thing is literally stands up against a fucking engine that pushes a fucking ion engine that pushes a fucking starship forward.
Yeah,
and you think these little fucking explosives are gonna do shit?
What made me laugh is the way he described it. I'm like, dude, what the hell is he talking about? I'm like, how does anyone understand what this means? And then all of a sudden I see what they're talking about. I'm like, oh, that's really actually I could have just guessed that that's probably what the formation would need to be to make it blow up. But
it's the best guess. It's sealed right there.
Yeah. But what he said just to me just was whoop.
Oh yeah, he made it way too complicated.
But that's to be expected.
But yeah, he's like, if we do that, we'll break away from the cylinder will break away and destabilize the core. And Omega questions. She goes, break away? You mean fall? All the way down? And Echo says, yeah, it's that, or, die a fiery death. You choose, Omega. And everyone takes an explosive, and they make their way to their positions, placing the explosives and getting the hell out of Dodge. And outside, Crosshair is informed that the engines are ready, and he goes, engage. Turn this shit on. Let's go. And, the engines fire up as Wrecker blows the thing to bits. And Crosshair, who's already began walking back to his ship, he's like, fuck yeah. He was trying to Curry this. He was trying to Steph Curry from 3 this. Take the shot, walk away, not even look. But he heard the ball bounce off the rim. He sees the whole thing start collapsing, and he's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? The cylinder separates, the core destabilizes, severely fucking up Crosshair. This thing knocks him on his ass. It fucks up his eyes.
He was bad. He was down bad. And I was
fucked. Yeah, he wasn't looking too hot at this moment. He was looking very hot in terms of temperature. But the Bad Batch falls their separate ways. Hunter and Omega on one side, the rest on the other. And as soon as this happened, I went, fuck. Because this is too close to the end of the episode for this to end well. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In terms of them separating, something bad's about to happen here. And
oh my gosh. The way you just described that, the separating part. Do you remember how it felt in Civil War when you see them split up at the airport scene? When you see it's Wanda over by the hangar, and then it's what I know Black Panther, all that scene where they split up, and then all the bad shit really happens, and then all the bad shit really happens. No, I don't mean I mean when the group split up at the airport scene, when Cap and Bucky start running for the hangar, and then Vision takes off in the air. Vision, I guess, is holding whoever, but that's when Falcon and Rhodey are flying, and dude, that's just when shit hits the fan.
Yeah, you're like, well, something bad's about to happen, and then Rhodey gets shot out of the fucking air and paralyzed, and it's like, oh, wow, that's devastating.
Yeah.
You want to talk about being effective with devastating scenes, putting characters in real danger? Marvel doesn't do a bad job for not killing as many characters as they can.
No kidding.
Like, paralyzing a character? That's crazy. Like a hero? I obviously I'd given it some thought, but that's just wild. But you know, Crosshair struggles after they've after this place is like falling apart, and he tells them to turn the engines off, you know, because he's still getting burnt to a crisp. And they cut off the power, and Crosshair passes out. And Echo calls out over the comms to Hunter, asking where he is, and Hunter tells him that they're by the engine and that they've got company. And the shuttle fires on them as he tells them to meet back at the Marauder. And back with Crosshair, his soldiers call for a medic, and he tells them that they're headed for their ship. His soldiers call out asking if they had secured the enemy ship in with like a perimeter, and we get no response. We see the stormtrooper dead, and I'm like, oh fuck yeah, Hunter's already been to work. And then I see Hunter and Omega show up, and I'm like, oh, they have not already been to work. And they arrive on this very grim scene with several stormtroopers being dead, and Hunter says that, you know, someone's here. This wasn't a scrapper's handiwork. And then he hears, wasn't much work. And we just get this beautiful, beautiful tracking shot from the boots up to the hat of Cad Bane. And it's like, oh, fuck yeah. Western theme just kicking in real hard.
I had never seen him until recently, but before I had even watched any of Clone Wars, I remember like when I would go through like Instagram in the Explore section, or like even just on Twitter with the accounts I follow, like this dude was like posted about frequently, like pictures of comics with him, pictures of just concept art, anything they could have on him, just like fanfic,
very
all
popular
of it. Like
character.
I would see it, like people glorified this dude. Like he was like this is a dude they wanted so bad to see, like actually.
And we got him here. And that's the thing, is that he's been speculated for like Book of Boba and stuff. But I think if we're like gonna see him live action, it's more likely we see him in like Kenobi or Andor. You know, he's old as fuck here. He's an old dude here, you know.
Yeah, but he's an alien, so, you know.
He could, in theory, just live as long as you fucking want. He's an
alien. Dude, who knows how age works? He's a bug. Bugs can live for like
fucking
1 week or like
Yoda's
forever.
9,000 years old, so.
You know, you have a good point. But, you know, Hunter tells Omega, get behind him. And Cad Bane exits his ship and lifts up his cap. He says that he's taken out so many clones over the years. Once you figure out one, the rest are easy. And Hunter tells him, you're in for a surprise. Cad looks at him, he goes, I doubt that. And I was like, fuck, this is a real Western standoff. This is fucking dope. But Omega warns Hunter. She says, he's a bounty hunter. And Cad says, ain't you smart? Kid's got it all figured out. And his little droid friend who's been with him since the early Clone Wars days says, you're in trouble now, talking to Hunter. And
dude,
Hunter
I fucking hated that guy. I hated that guy.
That droid's a piece of shit.
He reminds me of the Jafar's little parrot.
Oh, and shit, like, that's a really good comparison.
Dude, just pisses me off, just on my nerves.
That is a fantastic comparison. But
see, I completely disagree. I fucking love this droid solely because of the fact that it's Seth fucking Green.
Oh, is it Seth Green?
Yes. Wait a minute. Is that the...
That makes so much sense!
Yeah, did you guys not... I was looking it up just to be sure before I said it. But every single time I fucking hear him, and even in the Clone Wars, it's Seth fucking Green. And it's so funny every time I hear his voice, because he's not a Star Wars voice to me. And I hear his voice, and I'm like, what the fuck is Seth Green doing?
Oh, and he's definitely not a droid voice. And I think that's why I don't like this droid. is because he doesn't sound like a droid.
And that's why I love this droid, because he's so not a fucking droid. And there's so many scenes in like the Clone Wars where he says shit and you're like you're not a fucking droid, dude.
Time out. Did you know he had a credit? He was in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2.
Seth Green?
Yeah.
As what?
That's what I'm trying to figure out. Hang on. What? No way.
I could see him. I mean, obviously,
he's Howard the Duck. What the fuck?
Howard the fucking
no
Duck.
way. No way. No
so if we get a
way.
Howard the Duck solo movie, we can count on Seth Green.
We're gonna get fucking Seth Green.
My God, that's awesome. That's so
That's
sick.
fucking incredible. But
God, it's just
that
so
makes sense
weird.
too. I'm thinking about his line in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, and it's just I can hear it in Seth Green. Yeah, once you go duck.
You rat of laughter. What is he? Isn't that's what he says, right? Something like that.
Yeah. But Hunter asks Cad Bane, he's like, who hired you? Come on, tell me. Cad Bane's like, that's confidential information, son. Hand her over. And Hunter's like, she's with us. She's not going anywhere. And Cad says, that's unfortunate. For you. His hand hovers over his blaster and the Western theme really kicks off. Hunter hovers his hand over his blaster. It's real intense. They look at each other for a moment. And who draws first? But Hunter. Hunter goes for it first. And Cad Bane says, bitch, no. Cad Bane's built for this shit. Because this was one of the coolest standoffs we've ever had in Star Wars for my money. In terms of just how Western it was. Like, this was like the way Cad Bane puts the blaster back and everything. He does the spin thing, holsters it.
There are other Star Wars scenes where you're like, this like draws from a Western theme. This is literally just a Western shot.
Oh, just what? Like it's the music, the shot, the way they act, like the way Cad Bane acts. Like, he's straight out of he's even got a fucking cowboy hat. Yeah,
it's literally they said let's take a shot from like the Lone Ranger 1980 or whatever and just have it be two Star Wars characters instead.
Outstanding. But he gets Hunter in the chest. And Omega just shouts, Ante! Ante! And this shit destroyed me. Like, I was like, fuck! I was convinced.
I thought he was gone for sure.
I thought he was dead because of the like there are other scenes where like a character gets shot but they don't react immediately. So you're like, oh, okay, so he's still alive. Her reacting like this, I'm like, all right, so he's fucking dead.
And on my rewatch, it was even worse. She gets taken away thinking Hunter's dead.
Yeah, fuck, she doesn't know Hunter's alive.
Well, dude, what sold it for me, like, I was convinced he was dead just because of the music. Like, the way it swelled in this moment and, like, the way the camera just started focusing in on him and shit, I was like, oh,
yeah,
my God,
he seemed dead as fuck. I was convinced.
Yeah, I was too.
Omega's about that action, though. She calls out Hunter's name, and then she's like, fuck that, draws her bow on Cad. She's like, stand the fuck down, bitch. But, she gets disarmed by Seth Green. And Cad Bane says, sorry, little lady, and stuns Omega, knocking her out.
Oh, dude.
Back with Crosshair, we see he is being tended to. He has a head wrap. His eyes are burnt to shit, and he's in a sling. And in this moment, I thought for a moment, could Crosshair become Dengar? It was just a brief moment that I thought this. But look up the character Dengar, Dengar, and tell me this doesn't look the way Crosshair looked at the end of this episode. It's not him. It looks a lot like him, though.
Oh, yeah, no, I agree with you. It does look a lot like him. No, this is the fucking character that he turns into, like, a fucking, like, he turns, like, super fucking weird, like, later on, doesn't he?
Dengar?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't have nearly enough content with Dengar. Like, I would like to read more or see more, which was, like, why I thought this might be a cool little introduction to a bounty hunter named Dengar. Like, Crosshair's like, fuck, I need a whole new identity. I could see it happening. But, his eyes are burnt to shit. He's in a sling, and he is informed that their ground forces have the Bad Batch on the run. He groans and he tells them to get him in the shuttle. And we cut to Hunter waking up to the sound of Echo urging him to wake. And Wrecker asks, "What happened? Where's Omega?" And Tech notices he's been shot. He says he's been shot in the left chest plate. And he tells him, we got to carry him to the ship. But yeah, they get their ship. It gets up. It gets out of there. And they're on their way. But, Hunter goes, "He took a..." And Wrecker's like, "Who?" He's like, "A bounty hunter. Took Omega. We have to find them." And then we cut to black. And I thought that was an interesting place to cut to black. Obviously, they had to show us. I don't know. I feel like you could have kicked off the next episode with this. Left us with that Hunter's dead for a week.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not very Disney of them, I guess.
That wouldn't be very cash money of them.
Well, I wouldn't say Disney. I'll say a Disney animated show. I know it's Star Wars, but still. I feel like Mandalorian, you could kind of buy that. But like in the animated series, I feel like they don't want to leave you that. Well,
yeah, because if you do end that episode with him getting shot in the chest, and then we come back next week, and then he's alive, then it's like, oh, this is really cheap.
Yeah.
Right.
I did like the fact that they like that entire scene, like that last scene is all from his point of view directly, and it shows what they see.
We never
got a really cool thing.
I don't think we've ever gotten that before from animation.
I don't. At the very least, I don't think we've ever gotten the inside of a clone's helmet. I think we've gotten inside of some other helmets and stuff like that.
Well, we've seen through scopes. We've seen through scopes. I don't know that we've ever actually seen through the eyes of a helmet before, besides Vader for a very
that's kind of. I was kind of thinking
that's what I was
Vader,
thinking
maybe maybe like a Boba Fett or a Mandalorian type. Not obviously not the Mandalorian, but like a Mandalorian helmet maybe.
Not that
it was really cool that we got to see that for the first time of here's what the clones are seeing type thing.
Yeah, and frankly, I'm bewildered by Mandalorians and clones. How do you function without peripheral vision?
I feel like at a certain point you get used to it. And that's also probably why they take their... That's probably why they don't sit with their helmets on all the time, and why, unless they're fighting and they need the protection, they take that shit off.
And in theory, if you're fighting an enemy, you should be looking straight ahead to fight them.
Yeah.
Okay, I can get behind that. But if that enemy gets on your side for even a second, you're at least a little fucked.
But at the same time, if you get on the enemy side for a second.
Yeah.
Think about if you're both on each other's sides, you're just guess the enemy just left. You're both just side to side, right next to each other.
That'd be pretty outstanding. But fuck, guys, this was one of the best episodes of the show so far for my money. This was top to bottom perfect. I didn't have a lot of qualms with it.
I love that not only did we get Hunter and that emotional part, where Hunter gets shot, we also get to see Omega get taken. And the fact that those happen back to back just really hits a lot harder. Those happen separately in separate episodes on their own. You can kind of process both as it goes on, but they happen back to back. And then the cliffhanger, arguably the more ominous one, is Omega is gone.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Last time we saw a child get taken in Star Wars, bad. Well, bad turned into great things happen.
But here's the thing. With this, it means that one way or another, do the Kaminoans have Omega taken to an offsite, a place that isn't Kamino? Or
yes.
Yeah, right? Because Kamino's controlled by the Empire.
They don't test it. Yeah.
All right, then that's interesting. So, where do you think that place is? Ooh. What if it's that cloning chamber on Navarro? The planet in The Mandalorian that they destroy it in season 2. Not the planet, the factory.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Well, but that's like an Imperial facility. Well, unless maybe it was like a former Kaminoan facility. But actually, shit, I don't know where else they could take them because like Kaminoans don't do a whole lot of traveling.
Yeah, they stay on Kamino. So that's the thing, is that like we're either about to learn a lot about the Kaminoans or we're just going to return to Kamino. You know what I'm saying?
Or maybe we're going to find like
Kamino with Omega. There's no way they can hide that.
Okay, clearly the Kaminoans have contingencies. Yeah. There's no way they don't have somewhere on that fucking water planet that's underwater or something like that that's hidden away from the Empire.
Yeah, that's true. They've got
there's no way they've given the Empire full access to everything on their planet.
Yeah, they've got something somewhere that's working in their favor. That's probably a good assumption. Okay, are there any other bounty hunters you think could be in pursuit of Omega? Like another one that's popular around this era. Do you think we could see Tobias Beckett from Solo, who taught Han Solo or kind of mentored him, played by Woody Harrelson? Could we see Aura Singh, who Tobias Beckett killed? Another one that ran with Cad Bane and Boba.
Did the shapeshifter from the original from the prequel trilogy, did she die?
She's dead by here. She's dead, and she died in episode 2.
Okay, that's why I couldn't remember if she died or not.
Yeah, but yeah, I would be interested if it would be cool if like this War of the Bounty Hunter comic run kind of lines up with us getting introduced to a bunch of bounty hunters in the Bad Batch. That'd be really fucking cool. It'd be cool to see Bosk. We haven't seen Bosk hardly ever. It'd be really nice to see Bosk. I would love that a lot. But yeah, so my expectation right now is that, Hunter gets healed up. They try they don't even have a lead right now as to who hired. Kyle,
yeah, I mean, outside of a blue bounty hunter, and I mean, there's probably not a ton of big name blue bounty hunters, so they're probably that's probably a decent lead, but
Greedo, right?
Greedo.
Oh, Greedo, I guess, could be in the picture by here.
Well, I'm just saying, like, he said blue. How many blue bounty hunters do we know? I was like, well, isn't Greedo? So there's at least one other one. But what I was going to say was I just am thinking about how low morale is going to have to be at the beginning of this next episode. Like the center of their, like Omega, the like obviously like light and airy part of that team gone, taken. That's going to suck. And then also the like cool hand, like the like steady head and like leader of the group he's
going to be Thrawn.
Yeah. He's practically rendered useless now for at least an episode. Or at least four, or at least like 3/4 of the next episode. He'll probably do like the gimp off the ship with a blaster and save someone at the last minute. But I'm just saying.
I'm down for whatever classic Star Wars trope they want to give.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying morale. I just think it's going to be interesting because we've never seen the Bad Batch down this bad, up until this point.
No, yeah, they truly are the down Bad Batch.
Yeah, so I think morale is going to be super low. Think about how negative Wrecker's about to be. Between Hunter and Omega, that is the one person that checks him and kind of uplifts him or gets him back on track. So without both of those influences kind of on their shit,
I think we're going to see a Wrecker out for blood.
Ooh, just rage mode.
Wrecker's ready to get Omega back at all costs, bro.
No, I'm down. I just that's just the environment.
I think we might get some Din in episode 3 of season 1 where he's breaking Grogu out of the facility. We're getting we might get some of those vibes from Wrecker next episode. I won't be stopped.
Actually, I was thinking about it. Thinking about Din. How old is Din? Could he be one of the bounty hunters?
Din could not by this point. He would be a child still, just because I know his family was destroyed during the Clone Wars and he was taken.
But
by
the Clone Wars lasted a real long time.
Yeah, but by the point the Separatists were committing acts of terrorism, that was pretty close to the end.
Yeah, I'm not saying he'd be like an old bounty hunter, but there could be a chance he could be like a...
He could be a very young Mando in training.
Yeah.
That's a distinct possibility. And it would be interesting, but at this point in time, in theory, Mandalore is still fine. Like, there is such a small gap in which Mandalore gets destroyed that we haven't seen. It's between Rebels and the end of the original trilogy.
Yes, but I do think that this would have been during the period of time where there were a bunch of Mandalorians that broke off of like where the foundlings came from. Because I mean, what's his name?
Jango
Fett was a foundling.
Yeah. But just because he was like, see, that's the thing too, is like, are the foundlings a Mandalorian tradition that have been a part of their society for even longer than just this sect? Or is it just this sect that takes in foundlings?
I mean, maybe, but we do also know that like this sect took in Din at some point during the Clone Wars. So we know they're around, and he's around. It's just how old is he?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if, that is a really good point. I just wasn't sure if,
I get what you were thinking, and then I remembered, wait a minute, but they had to have taken him in, so yeah.
They were already split off by the time they got to Din.
Yeah.
That makes sense. At least that's what we've been led to believe so far. So
yeah.
I'm with that. But yeah, I guess a potentially very young Din. It would almost be even cooler if we got whoever Din's potential mentor is, whoever is kind of, teaching Din, that sort of Mandalorian. That would be pretty badass to get here. However, I don't know. I think they'll try to keep that as limited to where it's at as possible. It is an interesting concept, though. Because, I mean, the Children of the Watch, I guess, could be relevant if they... what if like they were just like, fuck it, Omega, we found you. Omega is now Omega's a Mandalorian foundling, she becomes the armorer. Done. Done. Omega is the armorer.
That's how she just absolutely just fucked up the stormtroopers in The Mandalorian.
Yeah, that's exactly it. But fuck guys, I don't have any more to say about this episode. It was a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. Big fan.
Yeah, it was fucking great. But yeah, this was the Bad Batch, bitches. It's the 110th episode of the Penny Bloom podcast. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Miles Buttress. Thank you very much, homie.
Thanks for having me. And, happy to be back anytime.
Anytime. Would you say later this week even?
I mean, like what? 1, 2, 3, like 4 days from now, probably.
Yeah, we got to talk some Loki's Losers, where we will also be joined by KBZ, Kyler Barnett. Thank you very much, homie.
Absolutely. Always a pleasure.
Absolutely. If you would like 40 minutes of additional content on this episode, head to patreon.com/KoroBloom, where now you'll be able to find over 10 hours of exclusive content, which you will not be able to find anywhere else. 10 hours. That's a lot of content you have not heard from us. I'd strongly suggest going and checking it out. We've also got a Twitter. Go follow @PennyBloomPod. Follow on Instagram @PennyBloomPodcast. And remember to leave a 5-star rate and review. Download the episodes. That's how we grow. Share with a friend. But most importantly, above all else, remember, peace, love, and bloom. And always praise Keanu Reeves.